I miss 2016. Wow, now there's a sentence I thought I'd never utter in my life, but here we are. I miss 2016 because that's the year when I first came across the so-called dead internet theory, according to which the internet now mainly consists of bots chatting with bots based on like AI-generated scripts. Back then, in 2016, this all sounded absolutely ridiculous, and it was very easy to dismiss it as like this conspiracy theory that only hardcore nutcases would believe. But now, looking at Facebook and other social media sites, seeing how armies of bots and like brain-dead weirdos respond to what are some flagrantly false posts is worrisome, to put it mildly. So it's no wonder that many people nowadays argue that Facebook and social media more generally really cause like your brain to rot and your mental health to like collapse in this amorphous blob of goop. Social media rots your brain. But is it true? As a social scientist, one of my biggest problems with theories and ideas like this is that we don't really know which way causation runs. Correlation does not imply causation. Is it that Facebook and like social media cause brain rot in people who use them? Or are brain-dead idiots just naturally drawn to low-effort content and constant doom-scrolling loops? As an academic interested in statistical questions like this, I read so many garbage articles on the topic that I had kinda given up hope that we'll ever know the truth. Until today. Now we know. So the title of this article, Social Media and Mental Health, kinda immediately caught my behavioral scientist eye. But what really made my nerdy heart start racing in this case is seeing like the journal in which this article was published. Now, I know that the vast majority of you are probably unfamiliar with journal rankings in economics academia, but this right here, this is the it girl Queen Bee Slay Yas. So the fact that this article made it through peer review in this journal made me realize that maybe, just maybe, we've actually struck gold here. We can actually make progress. We provide quasi-experimental estimates of the impact of social media on mental health by leveraging a unique natural experiment, the staggered introduction of Facebook across US colleges. So I've been scrolling through this paper for like the past 2 hours now, and let me tell you that there's a lot to take in here. But as far as I can tell, there are like 3 main findings here that everyone, Facebook user or not, should really be aware of because, oh boy. Number 1 is shown in this graph right here. So basically, these blue daddy long legs looking fucks are the so-called estimated effects. The terms here that cross this red line are what we call statistically insignificant, meaning that Facebook doesn't actually have an effect here. Whereas for the terms that don't cross the line, well, that's where the action happens, baby. So looking at these findings, my immediate reaction is... But moving on beyond that, the introduction of Facebook led to an increase in feelings of hopelessness, exhaustion, general sadness, depression, and anxiety. Oh boy, I really can relate to the anxiety one because nothing makes kind of my inner soul pustules flare up more than logging into Facebook and seeing, you know, other younger people being more successful than I am. This, however, brings me to the second important point here, which is captured in this follow-up graph. Perhaps unsurprisingly to most of us, it seems that social media usage makes people significantly more anxious about their academic performance. They essentially tell us how concerned students are that their poor mental health is having a negative effect on their academic performance, on their performance in college. And listen, I regret many many things about my student life, but one of the things I'll forever thank past student me for doing is staying the fuck off social media whilst in college, whilst doing exams. Anxiety and depression were already having like a ball in here, and I really didn't need social media to like jump in and turn it into an outright orgy. And now we finally arrive at the big question. The holy grail, the pièce de la résistance. The insert metaphor here. Why does social media cause your brain to rot? And you know, this doesn't necessarily have like an obvious answer. In fact, after all is said and done, you might argue that social media can actually have positive effects on your mental health as well. You know, stuff like staying in touch with friends or artistic expression. These are not things that should be neglected when we're thinking whether social media is overall bad or good. And importantly, these are things that the authors by no means are trying to dismiss, and I'm not here to do it either. I love me some artistic expression. But in any case, the authors had like 3 hypotheses as to why social media can rot our brain. I'll give you 5 seconds to guess which is the right answer. If you guessed B, congrats. You get a pat on the head. Pat, pat. According to the authors, their results show that students fail to fully take into account the fact that the content they see on social media is a curated rather than a representative portrayal of their peers' lives. In other words, it's just a fantasy most of the time. Such naivete could lead to distorted belief and exacerbate negative social comparisons. As Nicki Minaj could say if she really wanted to, comparison is the death of joy. Right. Takeaways. I have to admit that I am still somewhat in awe of this study and what it managed to achieve from like a statistical perspective. That said, oddly enough, I'm actually more optimistic, if that's the right word, about this whole social media thing now that I've read this paper. I mean, yes, social media can and will rot our brains if we're not careful. And yes, our brains are these masochistic, spongy squids that really can't get enough, for whatever reasons, of social comparisons and making themselves feel miserable. But, and this is a very, very important but, we have the power to not let this stuff get to us. We have the power to realize that what we see on social media is not real stuff, but it's rather a curated fantasy of others' lives. And the hurt we're inflicting on ourselves, we have the power to make it stop by realizing this basic fact. We have the power to realize that maybe, just maybe, despite all our flaws and anxieties, we're fucking lit, mate.